Hi, I'm Joanna Ruth, and I run JoannaRuth.Online, where I teach spiritual literacy and all the other projects that are to do with my healing and perhaps yours. Pop on over to JoannaRuth.Online for more information and enjoy the tarot. Hi everybody, this is Joanna Ruth. I'm back again doing a bit of tarot practice, and if you want to join in, you want to play along, I'm using videos to help me to understand the notes that I have made on my tarot cards, so that one day it will become quite a fluent language of expression for me. I think the archetypal visual expressions, I should say archetypal and visual expressions of the tarot is actually really helpful for self-reflection, which is the business that I'm in. My website is www.JoannaRuth.Online, so that's JoannaRuth online, and everything that I do is on there, because I get a little sick of explaining what I do. So I write some Substack articles, which I was doing this morning, and I will often see clients, and in between seeing those clients, I will do things like writing articles, write a book, writing coursework, learning tarot, all of that sort of stuff. The key to happiness is knowing yourself, knowing what's living inside of your fourth dimensional self. And the only way you're going to know that is if you actually ask yourself questions and you reflect. All the answers are inside of you. You just have to know what questions to ask. So I think if you're drawn to the tarot, then more than likely, I've got cards flying out everywhere as I'm talking. This one is the world. How am I going to show you? There you go. Ooh, there you go. The world. So the world is all about wholeness, completion, ending and beginning a new cycle, success in terms of your goal achievement, things like that. If comfort was your level of your marker of success, you have it. It also gives you an opportunity to level up, and I think that's what I'm doing by learning tarot. So let me reposition the camera for you so you can see what I'm doing. I think it's more interesting if you're seeing the cards. And while I do my final shuffling, which is another technical literacy skill, I suppose, making sure I'm happy with my coordination shuffling. So here I am. I'm using the video so that I can hear myself talk. If you are an audio learner like I am, you're going to need to talk your understanding. So you need to talk it into your mind. And you'd be surprised how many people are audio learners, and we just don't know, especially if you come from the modern world. The modern world doesn't really use audio learning very much. We use visual learning a lot, and we use kinesthetic, which is hands-on learning. We do a lot of reading. Less and less do we do reading aloud. So if you don't read aloud, you miss all the people who are audio learners who really require that reading aloud. So this is the deck that I'm using. It's the Radiant Rider-Waite Tarot. I chose it because it's using the Rider-Waite system. The cards are very, very clear and clean in terms of their imagery. And I have two decks, one that I have notes on and one in here that is fresh and doesn't have any notes. At the moment, I'm at the stage of the learning process where I'm still using the deck that has notes. And I've chosen this spread today, so I don't know if you can see it. Might need to put a bit of light on it. Maybe I'll just read it to you. So it's called the New Growth Spread. So I just put it on a little card, which I'm going to collect and put together with all my other cards, so I can perhaps choose spreads the same way that I get the information from the card deck when I'm doing the spread. So this is the new growth spread. The first card is self, who are you? Or the second card is your now situation. Third is what you should release, or what you might think of releasing. The fourth is what you need to or think about inviting into your life. The fifth is your growth potential. So which direction is your potential growth perhaps coming to you? And the last card is what can support your growth. So I'll leave that at the top here so I can reference it and make sure that I know what's going on. And we will lay them out. Now, you may not be able to see all the cards when I get going, but I will try to show them to you, or remember to show them to you. And I'm sitting on the floor here, as I do, on my large coffee table. I can stretch my legs, I can cross my legs. I like sitting on the floor. So yeah, here we go. So just remember that tarot is a language, just like a language like English language or Spanish or French or Yiddish is a language of expression, and tarot is the expression of archetypal characters. So every spread is likely to connect in some way with someone. I think the influence of the story of the spread really comes from the reader. I've noticed that many readers interpret the cards through a coloured lens that they have, and so I'm hoping to record and assess that I interpret the cards in a very emotionally stable, balanced way, and I let the cards do the talking more than myself, although I'm interpreting them. So let's have a look at perhaps who you are. I think the language of tarot and the stories that come through according to the spread, there's the card, are helpful regardless of whether you believe in it being a tool for prediction or not. It's really an amazing tool for self-evaluation. So here we have the Six of Pentacles, and it's in the reverse. So when it's upright, the Six of Pentacles is really about equal give and take and balance and reciprocation. So it's like you've earned your harmony. It is about the physical world. It's about the 3D world. Now, it's come out in the reverse, which means perhaps you're not quite yet in that equal give and take. Maybe you are giving too much. Maybe you are taking too much. We might have to get some clarifying cards to work that out. The Six of Pentacles is also about redistribution. Okay, so it's evening out the haves and the have-nots, really. So perhaps you're a have, perhaps you're a have-not. Let's figure that out as we go along. And really is for you to decide. I don't want to tell you who you are. I want you to tell you who you are. Just like I find out who I am. Oh, we have a few. This one flipped over first. This is the Star card. Put the other one back. So this is hope. This card is about hope. It's about peace, sanctuary, healing. You're comfortably vulnerable. But it's in the reverse, which means you're without hope. So here you are. I'm thinking that perhaps this new situation of being without hope might frame a little bit of your self card, which is probably a yearning for harmony. We all seem to want harmony, and perhaps you're not feeling the harmony, you're lacking in harmony, and the situation that you have right now is that you're maybe not trusting in what's possible for coming to you. So let's find out what you need to release, or a possible release theme. Okay, we have 2 cards. We have the 3 of Swords in the reverse. We have a lot in the reverse. Interestingly. And we have the King of Wands in the reverse. So let's have a look at the 3 of Swords first. The 3 of Swords is like when you have ideas that you've got to sort through, let go of. It's like a reckoning. And we do learn the most from loss and heartbreak, but you have it in the reverse. So perhaps you need to release ideas so that you can have the learning. Or perhaps you're reluctant to do the learning. You're reluctant to look at what's breaking your heart. The King of Wands is a real energetic, overseeing energy. It's really taking charge of your life. When we're talking about self-reflection, the character of the King of Wands really gets into the thick of things and makes things happen. Really a lot of presence. Now this was also in the reverse, which means you're not doing that. You probably need to release whatever it is that is breaking your heart and whatever it is that is stopping you from taking charge of your life. Because it looks like you're not. And to be honest, that's the majority of people in the world. We just don't know what it is. So let's see what we can invite in. Maybe it will help. We'll talk about how that card could maybe help the situation. Okay, so you want to invite in, perhaps, an ending. So the Death card is not a death. It's like a metaphorical death. So in the physical world of cycling, the Death card can be positive and it can be negative, but it really is a changeover. So it is an inevitable changeover. So in terms of inviting in this cycle changeover to do with what you need to get rid of, so you need to release this lack of capacity to have your heart broken. See, it's when you have your heart broken, you learn the most. And maybe you do need your heart to be broken. You need to allow the heart breaking so that you can allow taking charge of your life. And you want to be inviting in this changeover of cycle, the Death card. It's not a particularly lovely word, the Death card. I think in our everyday communication, death is not a very happy thing. However, in terms of this new situation of lack of hope and the fact that you're maybe defining yourself as someone who hasn't quite achieved this harmonious balance in your life, which in terms of your stuff of life, your physical embodiment of life, and that can be in your physical body, it can be things, it can be money, it can be any kind of wealth. Doesn't have to be financial. I mean, it could be, and it could be where you live, it could be how you live, it could be who you live with. It's really the physical world of things, of the world of thing, of stuff. Okay, so now we're looking at your growth potential. So this is starting to make a lot of sense now, isn't it? Because your identity is saying, I'm out of balance in the world of stuff. I have currently lost my trust in what's possible for me. I'm not feeling that star energy. The heartbreak that needs to come is not coming. in terms of what you need to release. You need to release whatever it is that's stopping you, whatever fear, I suppose, that's stopping you from releasing releasing an idea. So this is something that I've known for a very long time. In fact, I'm a songwriter, and I write songs about many of these ideas. Before I learned tarot, I wrote a song likely, 10 years ago now, about how an idea is what I grieve for. When the idea is gone, I'm so lost, I'm so lonely. The idea was my one and only. Nice little rhyme, huh? But sometimes, and this is what the Three of Swords is talking about, it's talking about the loss of an idea. Sometimes we get really attached to ideas, and it's very normal, but it's part of our journey to figure out that we do need to cycle through. Okay, so you need to, the ideas that you have when you're 12, if you're still adhering to the rules that you made for yourself when you're 12, when you're 32, they're not going to be quite appropriate. So we do need to cycle through. We need to allow the acceptance of having thoughts in our mind space that we made a decision so long ago in our not so wise years, when we're young and dumb. And we need to assess them, and we need to let go. And sometimes those ideas, we're so attached to them, it feels like heartbreak, but it really is just the changeover of ideas. And it is the only way that you're going to be able to turn that King of Wands around, to release whatever's stopping you from letting go of ideas, and what is stopping you from taking charge in your life. And what you want to invite in is a changeover. Let's move into the next stage. So we're back to looking for what is our growth potential. Here we go. And there's a lot of cards, so I'm going to take the top one, which was upside down, was in the reverse, but let's have a look at what it is. So the Page of Swords is kind of an Alice in Wonderland, very, very curious character. And these character cards, which are the Page, Knight, Queen, and King, they have a range. So just like the King of Wands is charismatic in its most positive, taking charge in life, in its negative, it's manipulative. That might be a clue. Maybe you're manipulating things here in terms of what you need to release. Maybe there are some manipulations that you need to release, and maybe they are involved with thoughts that are no longer quite true anymore. So I'm going to see if I can move these up for you a little bit so you can see what I'm pointing to. That'd be better. So here we have perhaps the slight manipulation. Maybe that's one of these thoughts that needs to be released and bring in the cycle change, which is the Death card. I'm gonna try to see if I can move this all up a little bit for you, or move the camera back a little bit for you in subsequent readings. I won't do it now because it'll mess everything up. But the Alice in Wonderland card, the Page of Swords, so curious. So it's a swords card, which means it's airy, it's light, it's full of thinking. And it's a page card, which means it's very much about youthful attitude in terms of thinking. So there's a little naivety in terms of being a curiouser thinking type person. It is about learning and exploring, but it can, in the negative or in the more negative polarity, become some sort of pushiness or unsolicited advice, or saying, thinking that you know something when you don't really know something. So the growth potential is perhaps to swing this back to more just the inquisitive nature. We'll get some supporting cards. Hi, Joanna Ruth again. let me tell you a little bit about what's available on my website. You can have your Soul Symphony report made for you, or you could link to my Substack. It's called Holding the Rails. If you're into a little bit of Yiddish culture like me, you could listen to me singing songs that I've written and have performed for you on YouTube. Also, there's English songs that I've produced, which you can find on the music page. And the piece de resistance is the novel that I wrote at the end of 2025 to help you understand spiritual literacy the way that I understood it. It's called Malena Valley, and you can also do coursework on my school channel, which is called Spiritual Literacy ED. Hope you have fun with it. Bye. For that in a minute, and we'll have a look at what can support your growth, because these two, I believe, they feel like they're working together. There's a ton in the reverse in this reading, which is really interesting. Here we have the card. Okay, we have the Ace of Pentacles in the upright, which is very nice. This represents community. Let me show you the card so you can see it. It's not very bright for you. I'm terribly sorry, but I have to work on that lighting thing, don't I? You need lighting coming from behind you onto what I'm doing. We have this light here, but it's not doing very much for you. So the Ace of Pentacles is saying this is what's going to support your growth. So in terms of you being the Page of Swords, which is about the thinking, about possibilities, and maybe you need to increase your ideas in terms of possibilities. More possibly, you may need to come more into trust, because we are talking about a cycle change. And if you do have that growth happen, which is the cycle change, then perhaps as the cycle changes, you will turn some of these around in terms of the self and your now situation. Therefore, everything turns. So the Ace of Pentacles is your opportunity card. It is grounded in the world of stuff, which comes back to here. We're talking about your self-perception. Your self-perception is still attached to the world of stuff, of things, the physical world. However, this really has that you can do it. It's a very, very positive card. It's the say yes card. You can bring it in. A door is opening. So you can grow. You can grow this personality card from no longer being intrusive and pushy. And you may only be being pushy with yourself, because it's to do with what you've got to release. And you may be just bullying yourself over here. And so take heed of, you need to be able to take charge, and you need to be able to look at your thoughts. And so if you're focusing on turning these around with this opportunity, then these will likely turn around just because you did the work in terms of the Death card, inviting in that change. So I'm going to give these a little shuffle around, because it feels like the deck is a little unbalanced somehow. It may not be. It might just be my little mind getting in the way. But I'm letting the cards do the talking, which is really important. So I think what we need, we've got those two together. These two are your new situation. This is what you want to release, and this is your growth potential and what's going to support your growth. And I think it's looking very lovely. All we're going to do is we're going to clarify each section. So this is one section, the self and the new situation. That's the identity. We're going to clarify the release cards. Oh, no. Oh, no. clarifying card in regard to your self-perception and your now, self-perception and what's happening for you now, that you have a sense of overwhelm going on, which really does match those cards, doesn't it? You have lack of hope currently, and you're feeling overwhelmed. This is why we do the work, and it is a swords card, so it's talking about thought. Whoop, there we go. Thank you. It's talking about thought. So this overwhelm card, which is the Eight of Swords. See how, I know it's very hard to see. See how she's tied up, but it's really loosely tied. So loosely tied means you might not think you have great agency, but you do have agency. And so this is very supportive of how you're feeling in terms of you're feeling unbalanced, you feel like you don't have hope, you feel all tied up with your thoughts, which makes great sense with the reading. Then we come to what you're needing to release, which is you're needing to look at these thoughts. And in doing that, looking at these thoughts, you're going to take more and more charge internally. So often with the energy of the wands, so you have the wands card is all about energy flow, and this is a very, very present, you've got a lot of presence in your life, and so you are lacking this presence in your life. And now you have Four of Wands, which is the same suit, so it's the energy suit. In the upright, it's talking about milestones that have to happen, or that do happen in your life, and it's quite a lovely card. It doesn't mean that you've reached all your goals, but it does mean that you're on the right track. And it's in the reverse, which means you haven't quite met the goal. This is why you're perceiving yourself as such, this overwhelm. And you are looking to become more stable, but you are not yet stable, which makes a lot of sense of why the Death card is showing up. So let's get a little clarification on the changeover that the cards are telling you that will be your savior, but who does the changing? You do the changing. You may not know. Oh, here we go. Matching cards. So feeling restrained. The Devil card is all about this freedom versus not freedom, and it is about being stuck, feeling captive, but it's not forever, right? So it's very, very similar to this changeover card. So remember, the Death card is you're inviting in this notion of a cycle change, and you have the flavor down here of the Devil, which really means you have a flavor of captivity, which matches what all of this is feeling. You need to understand that is your choice. You're not captive forever. This card doesn't say, oh, you're just stuck there forever. No. It's a sense of feeling stuck. Remaining stuck, but not forever. You can believe in freedom or not freedom. It's your choice. So if you're going to invite in an ending, you have to know that it is you that chooses this. It is always you that chooses. So let's have a look at your growth potential and what supports your growth. We're only going to get one more card and see how that flavors what the cards have already told us. Whoop, that's you. Okay, we have the Hanged Man. So the Hanged Man is about suspending yourself, not necessarily physically. You don't have to hang upside down in reality, in your physical self, but it is hanging yourself. You're waiting willingly. You're suspending things. You're putting a pause on something. And perhaps you're shifting while you're hanging there. You have a light shining behind your head. The sun, which is a lovely masculine, warm energy that is helping you to move your perspectives. And as you move your perspectives, potential will come to help you manifest the change in your thinking, to take you from being too much of a self-bully into being maybe more understanding about your own thoughts, and that they are malleable, and that it is you that must take charge. You must become more the King of Wands in the positive sense rather than in the negative sense. Stop trying to work. This King of Wands reversed for me in terms of the manipulative end of the scale. I see that a lot in people who are assuming that the work, which is this, the change, allowing the change of the cycle and the Hanged Man, you've got to sit there, you've got to work out what you're going to change, what you're going to let go of. You're reflecting on this situation of the Three of Swords. So a person who has lived for such a long time, I feel like I want to talk to you. A person who has lived for such a long time bearing the weight of this, bearing the weight of the Three of Swords, and the Three of Swords in reverse, right? So the Three of Swords in the upright is the heartbreak, but the heartbreak comes because you allow yourself to think the thought that you don't want to be thinking, right? So you're holding up your progress, really, if it's in the reverse. You need it to come around. And you also need to stop manipulating yourself to allow for you to see clearly of what's inside your mental body, because it affects everything. Your fourth dimensional self is affecting your third dimensional self. We don't really understand how these dimensions of self, because we live in these dimensions, we exist in these dimensions, and the river only flows in one way. So the higher dimensions come down into the lower dimensions. The fourth dimension is thought and time, memory and imagination, and it really does burden a person. And when you have lived for such a long time in this state of affairs, because you haven't released it, you do end up feeling out of balance. You do end up without hope. You do end up feeling overwhelmed, for sure. But you also judge the changeover, this one, you also judge the changeover, which is, let's see a bit better now. You're judging this and this, yeah? This is why you stay in the devil energy, because you're frightened that the actual change, the seeing of that thought, the allowing of this healing to happen is going to be as painful as all the time that you have spent bearing this. And I distinctly remember many years ago, my older sister, who's 11 years older than me, I was in my 20s and she was in her 30s, and she was a little dismayed about things, and she was sitting out in her backyard area with her head in her hands and her head on her knees. And I said, "What's the matter?" And she said, I can't do this. And I said, "What's this?" And she said, "Fix it." And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "It's too hard." And I said, "Have you done it before? Have you fixed it before?" And she said, "No." I said, "Well, how do you know it's too hard?" I said, "Living it is too hard. Fixing it might be easy. You just got to know how to do it." So that makes a lot of sense to me. The King of Wands is coming to life for me in terms of this manipulation of self, so that You don't look at what you need to look at. You don't allow yourself to move into that heartbreak. But if you don't move into the heartbreak that comes with the Three of Swords, you never allow for change. You can't get there. You're going to be stuck and restrained. You are holding yourself captive. And this is why I'm really loving tarot. It's amazing to be able to speak the language of tarot. So I think we've covered everything. If this is relating to you, or my understanding of this situation, so this is the how you're self-identifying. Here we have, so you're self-identifying as someone who is without hope, without balance, and feeling overwhelmed. Your issue is that you are too frightened, likely, to allow yourself to see the thoughts that you think. This is really common in the work that I do. My clients are holding themselves back from being aware of the thoughts they think because they do judge themselves. They really do. And they are not allowing themselves to move through the milestones that need to occur in life. They're staying captive and restrained. They're not allowing these endings to happen, these cycles that must continue on in our lives. Because, I mean, it's like if you decide something when you're 14 and you're in the middle of teenagehood, all this angst, and you go out into the world and you're testing out the theory of how your parents explained how to live or showed you how to live, and you stick with that. And you're in your 40s and you can't work out why things are not working out for you. Well, have you been allowing the cycles to change through? Have you been self-reflecting? Have you been hanging about? Are you navel gazing enough? Are you learning? Page of Swords. Are you being inquisitive enough, or are you thinking you already know everything? You don't want to think that you know everything. You want to be open. So this is the growth that needs to happen. We really want this card to shift from the reverse to the upright. You want to be a non-judgmental learner. That's what you want. You don't want to be a judgmental learner. So it's really not going to help. So take your opportunities and contemplate and figure out what heartbreak are you avoiding, and have it. Let life break your heart a little bit. It's not pleasant, but it's important. So I hope you have enjoyed my perspective on reading the cards. I have definitely enjoyed this spread again. It's still, this feels a lot when I go like the same. It feels a lot the same as when I go into energy healing therapy work. So I do indigenously trained talk therapy with people. I can do it on Zoom or in person, doesn't matter. And I generally do figure out many of these things just from talking to a person. I'm an audio learner, remember I said, and I can hear and feel subtle frequencies of humans because I became an empath due to, well, I think I was meant to become an empath, but I did through circumstance. I had narcissistic abuse my entire childhood and half my adulthood, and I learned a lot about what it is and how to cope. And because it was in my childhood, I ended up being very, very sensitive to human frequency, which is well, you know, it's an interesting kind of thing, you know. There's a lot of learning that happens in your childhood, but then there's a lot of learning that has to happen in your adulthood as well, because to be in the world with that skill, you are actually privy to a lot of information that other people are not expecting. that you're privy to, and you also have to know that other people are not expecting it, and they will feel that you have intruded perhaps into their thought space or into their emotional space, but they're making it available to you. You also have to learn how to not make yourself so open anymore. So there's a whole lot of learning that I've had to do. I bring that to my therapy work, but it really does feel, the puzzle of tarot is very, very much similar to the puzzle of finding that through subtle frequencies. So my clients I don't have to make them cry or anything. They don't have to go on and on about their story, about woe is me stuff. And I don't have to sort through so much emotional information, because I can feel the subtle frequencies, so that's real handy. So, I mean, I work with people all over the world, as long as we can get our time zones right. The hardest time zone is British people, because we're almost like their night is our day. So it's really hard. There's very, very few spots that I can that we can tee up times, but everywhere else seems to be okay. And tarot feels a lot like that. So I'm hoping that as I continue to learn and become tarot fluent, the readings will be a little bit like going to therapy, you know, and they seem to be going really well. I'm enjoying it very much. So thanks for being with me. I don't want to ramble on too much. You probably turn off if you want. JoannaRuth.Online is where you can find everything that I do. And if you find this video helpful, or you've got a suggestion for me, you can always write on the video, notes underneath it, comments, etc. And if you really want to make sure I read a message, you have to email me through my website, which is JoannaRuth.Online, and I'll put it on the screen for you so that you can see what it is. And have a lovely day, week, month, year. Today is, let me tell you what the date is, because sometimes you will find this far away from where you are. Today is, it doesn't know who I am with these glasses on. I suppose I don't know either. Today is Tuesday, the 27th of January 2026, in the afternoon in Australia. Melbourne, Australia is where I am. Thank you so much for being part of my tarot journey. Yeah, be well. Let your am be. Work out how to do that and you'll be set. See ya. Hi, I'm Joanna Ruth, and this is your doorway to spiritual literacy. Why not come on in and learn some foundations together?